Alabama was in full pads today, and there was one thing that I got to see on video clips that brought a tear to my eye.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the HSA Radio Network. That's me. And Bama Online's Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Thanks to all you everydayers. You guys are the best. Also, thank you, newbies, for joining in. Thanks for making us your first listen, second listen. Just listen and subscribe. We appreciate that. Jimmy, you got to go to practice today, so I'm going to let you do most of the talking here. But I did see a video clip.
Let's hear it. What'd you see? What'd you see? You might have seen something I did. That's the irony to it. You might have seen something I didn't.
It made me cry like I was chopping onions and watching Old Yeller. I mean, it was awesome.
Ryan Williams on the slip screen?
No.
Okay. I saw that.
Hang on. Let me just gather myself. I saw a snap that went from the center straight to the quarterback where it's supposed to be. And I fell in the floor and I said, there is a God.
Parker Brailsford is now your all-time favorite player?
Parker Brailsford.
He's got cool hair.
Not hyperbole. Is the greatest thing that's ever happened to Alabama football.
He's got cool hair.
He does have cool. I'll tell you. But Jimmy, for real, like they kept showing this highlight. I mean, everybody's probably seen it. I mean, I don't know if the university put it out or AL.com or whoever, but it's just him snapping the ball. And it's all. I'm so used to Jalen Milroe being, it's like he was moving sandbags trying to stop a flood. He's like, his hand's over here, over there, over here. He's grabbing the sandbag, moving it over here and going back. You never know where the snap was going to be when it was Seth McLaughlin. Now, it's like it came right back to him. And it was almost like for a second, he was like, so this is what it feels like.
Hey, you know how, on a side note, people are rooting for Parker Brailsford. They're like, he's so small. He's too small. He needs to gain weight. We should be rooting for Parker to stay small. You know why? Because Parker will stay at Alabama.
Yeah.
if he blew up to 310 pounds, the dude's going to be the center for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, he's out of here.
We need him to hang around. Y'all stop rooting for him to gain weight. Parker's really good. And, man, he could be, because of his size and not being a top NFL prospect, he could be around for a while, which would be great. And, by the way, we interviewed Tyler Booker a couple of days ago. Book was raving about Parker.
Well,
I mean,
you were at practice. Did anybody at all bring up the snaps, or is it just me that I just noticed that going, oh my God?
Some of the beat crew, I mean, we make our comments, to each other. I mean, when we're watching and the snaps stuff does come up, but we're more interested in, we've only got 15 minutes and we've got to write down and mentally note, okay, what we want to report. I noticed about the offensive line group, which was the first group we saw when we walked in the door. By the way, they practiced indoor today. I saw a whole lot more. I almost wish I could answer questions for all you guys, because even though it was practice number 6, covering practice for BOL, today was practice number 6. I saw as much today as I did the first 5 days combined. And that's simply because when they're practicing on the indoor, everything is right in front of you and it's all congested on one field. When they're practicing outdoors, they're on 2 or 3 fields all spread out, and we just can't simply see some things. But when the whole team was practicing indoors, we could see virtually everything with all the groups. Now, what I did do to infuriate you guys is we could only walk to the 50-yard line, and on the other side of the 50 was the defense. And I'm like, well, I'm not even going to walk to the 50 and even squint. I'm going to stay on this side of the 50 and get an up-close look at every offensive group, which is what I did. So I only looked at the offense today because it was just right in front of us. But the offensive line, by the way, Caden Proctor, left tackle, Wilkin Formby, right tackle, Booker at left guard, Jaden Roberts at right guard, Parker Brailsford at center. And the second group was McVay at left tackle, Pritchett at right tackle, Gino Vandermark at center, and the backup guards were Olas Allen and Rock Montgomery. So we got a good look at those guys. And the guy I want to give a shout out to there is Wilkin Formby, who is, I don't want to say is taking control of right tackle. That's not accurate, not fair, but we knew there would be a battle, and Formby's been the #1 right tackle in terms of media viewing. So that's interesting. By the way, it looks like $1 million in his uniform. He's in great physical shape, but we got to see the backs. Once again, some drills, Justice Haynes leads the group. Other drills, it's Jam Miller. They literally almost switch out. The other ones stay the same. It's always Richard Young 3rd, always Daniel Hill 4th, always Kevin Rowley 5th. But Justice and Jam are always switching out. It's clear they're a 1A and 1B. But Luke, you will be interested to hear this. For the first time, we saw sort of a wide receiver grouping that I've never noticed or seen before based on how they practice. There was a first group with no surprises. It was Kobe Prentice in the slot with outside receivers, Jeremy Bernard and Kendrick Law. But the second group, pretty interesting. The second group that was out there, Cole Adams in the slot, outside guys, Eman Henderson and Ryan Williams. So I caught my attention.
You also mentioned you saw Rico Scott in your notes on BOL.
I did. He was with the next group, what I would call the threes. But the reason that I mentioned him is I saw, just from me watching, he caught 2 deep balls. And again, there were drills, but he caught 2 deep balls and caught them so effortlessly. I made a mental note of that was nice. I mean, Rico hauling in deep balls.
Who are they from?
I don't remember. I mean, to be honest, I don't remember. I could make it up, but I don't remember one of the 4. Because what happens is they do this one drill. To explain why I don't know, they do this one drill where all 3 quarterbacks, so 3 receivers are lined up, right? The slot and the 2 outside guys. 3 quarterbacks take the snap, and they all throw to a different receiver running a route. So each receiver in the route is running a different route, maybe short, maybe intermediate, maybe long. And it's kind of hard if you're trying to watch the whole drill, which one of the 3 quarterbacks is throwing to the 3 different routes. So I'm not sure through it, but I watched Rico Scott catch 2 deep balls and made a note like, hey, I want to mention him because that was effortless on those catches, and it was nice. Not to say that Rico's making some sort of move on the first team, just like, wow, that's impressive freshman stuff. But Ryan Williams was with the second group. He looked great. I mean, again, in and out of breaks. But if I picked one receiver to highlight in terms of, wow, it's Kendrick Law. Because I made a mention in my BOL practice report, Luke, that, I watched the Olympics, a lot of the track stuff last week. And when you watch Kendrick Law, it made me think of I've been seeing the elite athletes in the world this week on TV, and Kendrick Law is like one of those dudes because he's built like the $6 million man, reference to mine and Luke's youth. He's built just unbelievably, but his burst, it's the best burst of all the running backs and all the receivers on offense in terms of snap of the ball, takeoff. Kendrick Law's got them all beat. I mean,
isn't it kind of funny that the $6 million man today would kind of suck?
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be like, I'm the $6 million man. It's like, I got a $24 million man right over here. He's just my chauffeur.
There's a Texas Tech softball girl making almost as much money as you, $6 million man.
And she doesn't even have a bionic eye or nothing.
No.
But
it's kind of like the $1 million band. Do we need to have a whole show whether we need to update that? Because it's got to cost $1 million just to outfit that band these days. 600 people in the band, and you got to buy all that equipment. I mean, we probably passed the $1 million mark just feeding those kids.
I'd rather have, let's keep the $1 million band and go to the $1 billion NIL. That's what I want. The band
scene
no offense to the band.
Wasn't there some sort of famous scene in the Michael Myers movie, Dr. Evil, when someone said, he was going to blackmail somebody for and we're going to ask for $1 million.
Yeah. And they were like, okay.
You've been in jail a long time. It's not a lot of money anymore. $1 million doesn't mean much.
Couple of things really quickly. I wanted to give a shout out to a listener because I appreciate this. I was in the thread about the crossover episode. Bama Boy 371444, not to be confused with Bama Boy 371443.
Those zip codes, you think?
Well, I don't know. They're just 6 letters. Where's he live? Guam? Anyway, I'll give him a shout out because he said, Luke, if this is actually you, huge fan and love to hear you make fun of Auburn. And I appreciate that.
Luke's specialty. That. He knows the show.
Also,
this is a guy that knows the show.
A personal friend and a listener of the program who sometimes listens in the shower. He knows who he is. And I don't know how to feel about that. But he said, I had this thought in the shower this morning that, and I've been listening to y'all talk and, how there's so much more energy and everything's sort of peppy and fun now. Instead of joyless murder ball, maybe it's joyful murder ball. Okay.
Oh, I love it.
I can get down with that.
I love it.
In fact, hey, I told him I'm stealing it.
Keep tweeting at us and we'll give you some credit because we could amplify that. That's good.
Joyful murder ball is
which reminds me of my last practice story. And I know we got to get to game time because game time is awesome. I might use game time tomorrow because I'm interested in the concert. But so practice is over and we're waiting to do interviews. This is some inside baseball. We're waiting to do our post-practice interviews. By the way, they practice inside during the media viewing. They practice outside after we left. So they did go outside after we left. So they're finishing practice outside. And we're waiting to do our interviews. And we hear the unmistakable sounds on the practice field of an ice cream truck. They bought an ice cream truck onto the now we didn't see it because it's outside and the doors are closed. They don't let us.
That's an old school good. Alabama joke for those who know. All right, we got to get the game time. But Jimmy, one other thing I want you to hang tight for because we're going to talk about ESPN's 25 most important players that will affect the playoffs. But I'm going to tell you about game time because it's the best. Look, Jimmy, go ahead and tell them you're going to use a Game Time app tomorrow.
I'm thinking about going to a concert tomorrow, and it's going to be a little dependent on what Game Time tells me I can get my concert tickets for. Because if I can get them cheap, I might get in the car and make a long drive, and that's what Game Time's good for. Because hey, this wasn't a show I wanted to go to for regular price, but I got the Game Time app, and I can get a good deal as the day goes on. And I'm monitoring it, and we might, and it's a little bit of a drive from where we're going. I'm not going to talk about which show, but it's a show in the state of Alabama, and it's a little drivable, but we're going to watch the prices, and that's a cool thing for Game Time. Like, hey, Game Time, if you can get us for X amount, we're getting in the car and we're going. So that Game Time is awesome. I know me and Luke do this all the time with our reads, and we say, hey, this is one I use all the time and love it, and Luke's been propping them up for a long time. So,
but I don't even have to prop them up. They prop themselves up. And if Jimmy, tomorrow, if it's your first time using it, which I don't know if it is, but if it is, use code Locked On College, and you'll get another $20 off. Or let Kelly do it. Your wife.
I'll be seeing this concert of a nationally known recording artist for basically free.
I'll tell you something. I hope you do get these tickets to see Yanni because I think it'll be fantastic. But look, go to Game Time, download that app. You will love it. I love it. And I've used it for NBA, World Series, football, college football, pro football, college baseball, everything. Go check out Game Time. You're going to love it. I promise that. Another thing you'll love is Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin does a great job with that podcast. I've been on it a few times. I know Jimmy's been on it. They talk NIL, expanded playoffs. He talks a lot of Bama. So go check out Locked On College Football. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jimmy, ESPN, and you hadn't seen this because you've been on the road today. That's why we're so late. And so I like doing this where I just spring some stuff on you. They said, here it is. They're 25 most important players in the college football playoff race. Number 25, I'm getting a little sick of this because this can't be true. But they have number 25, Travis Hunter from Colorado. And we're going to talk about the Bama people mostly. But the reason I don't like this, there's nobody who thinks Colorado is going to make the playoffs.
And I'm pro Colorado and pro on them being good. But that's absurd.
That's absurd. And not only that, I'm also a little perturbed with Dion for the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but he told his team, oh, my gosh, my children keep calling, and I keep having this podcast. Quit calling me. But regardless, Deion Sanders told his team the other day, he said, okay, quarterbacks are off limits. Nobody hit the quarterbacks. Also, That's understandable. I get that. He also said, okay, wide receivers off limits. I'm like, okay, that seems a little weird, but okay. And he said, and also off limits is Travis Hunter. He just picked him out. He's like, nobody touched Travis. It is what it is. And he said, I'm not playing favorites. It is what it is. I'm like, you're absolutely playing favorites. And that's goes against everything that is football. Now,
I'm not sure that's help. I mean, my question would be whether that's helping Travis Hunter.
Agreed.
I mean, because my thing would be, I get that he's the most valuable asset in that program, and Shador, and they're great players, but isn't Deion's job to make them as good of players as they can possibly be? And I would just question whether that's helpful in that regard. But Travis Hunter is a great player, and Shador's great. And I do think people in their haste to either prop up Deion or criticize Deion, in their haste, they forget how bad Colorado was before he got there. And if Colorado finishes 6-6, I think a lot of fans from around the country will go, overhyped, boring crap. And I'll be like, 6-6, he's a National Coach of the Year candidate. Because this program was horrific before he showed up. The idea they would go 6-6 2 years ago was outrageous. But yet I think people will use it as a reason to lash out against the hype Colorado gets. And putting Travis Hunter at 25 on some playoff list is a perfect example of that, because that's just overhyped. Colorado's not going to be in the play. And I'll happily eat those words if they are, because, you can't help but root for somebody like Travis, who's a great player. And I think a better discussion is, where does Travis Hunter fit in the draft? That's a good discussion, but not in the playoff mix.
All right, I'm going to just run down some guys that
are
Alabama adjacent. James Pierce from Tennessee at number 23, Luther Burden at number 22. I can buy that. Here's another one that I thought was a little wonky. Haynes King, a Texas A&M transfer who's now at Georgia Tech.
Was like, a playoff team, although Haynes is good. Hey,
he's good, but again,
question I'm bringing up for you before week 0 is Haynes King a better quarterback than DJ Uiagalelei?
Yeah.
And he might be. He might be.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Number 17 is Parker Brailsford. And I dig that. I'm like, that's a good call. That's somebody
knows Alabama. Somebody knows Alabama.
Yeah.
With that, because that's where we're probably more improved than anywhere else on the field. And Parker, by all reports, has done really well. Interesting. Whoever put that list. Now I'm complimenting whoever put the list together, because they know Alabama.
Then they get to number 15 and they cheat a little bit. It's Damani Jackson or Deshaun Jones. And I'm like, okay, I probably would have said, if you're going to do an or, I would have done all 3 of the freshman defensive backs and done one of these will have to be important, because that's what I believe that more.
I think about that after watching practice is where I might have been wrong. And boy, I am wrong all the time. I have zero problem admitting when I'm wrong. I thought all summer the starting corners would be Damani and Deshaun Jones. But after watching practice for 6 days, I'm not so sure that it won't be Damani and Xavier Brown.
I'm with you on that. Number 10 is Kobe Prentice. Okay, I can buy that, but I also would have put an or Kendrick Law or Ryan Williams on there. That's what I would have.
Is Jeremy Bernard not on the list?
Jeremy Bernard's not on the list. That could have been one to put on there.
Jeremy's Alabama's number 1 receiver, in my opinion, based on what we saw in the spring and what I've seen through 6 practices. Wide receiver 1 is Jeremy Bernard.
And based on trust.
And he's explosive. He's big. He knows the offense. I think right now, and trust that's a great way to put it. Look, if we're not going to struggle to beat Western Kentucky, but put it this way. If we had to go to a receiver 10 times to beat Western Kentucky week 1, I have no doubt in my mind that receiver is Jeremy Bernard.
That's right.
So that's what I mean. In week 1. Now, end of the year, maybe that's Ryan, or maybe it's Kobe, or maybe it's K-Law. But week 1, if we need it to win the game, it's Jeremy. I feel adamant about that after watching practice.
Number 6 was Jackson Dart, which I get. Number 4
that's fair.
Is Jalen Milroe. Now, I think he's probably a little low. His top 3 are Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, Alex Orji at Michigan. Is that how you say that?
Wow.
Do you say Orji?
I think so. I don't, to be honest, I don't
Why
know.
Don't we discuss
I'm just shocked that he would be that high and that we've, and that we're not in trouble for saying Orji on the show. but this is why. But I think that's crazy talk. Although Dylan Gabriel, I get. Jalen Milroe is clear and away the number 1 factor for Alabama in terms of making the playoff or not. I told a buddy today, he listens to the show, so you know who you are. But I told a buddy today who I was texting with, Milroe is the reason Alabama may win the national championship. I mean, give me a reason Alabama is going to win the national. Give me a reason Alabama's going to win the national championship. My answer is Jalen Milroe. I would also say on the other end, drawing criticism, I'm sure, is Jalen, as we've all seen, is also capable of not playing well in a game and Alabama losing a game. Maybe they shouldn't. That's a possibility too. But Jalen Milroe is the number one reason Alabama could win the national title. So to me, I would have Jalen Milroe extremely high on that list. I don't see Michigan in the national championship race at all based on the fact they lost 18 guys to the NFL draft. 18. There's no way they've recruited in a way to replace that. There's no way. They won't finish ahead of Ohio State or Oregon.
I'd love to be the play-by-play guy for Michigan this year. And the play-by-play goes, there goes Alex Orji around the end for 2. And somebody goes, oh, it's Alex Orji. I would have thought he got more than 2. You get it? You see what I'm going there?
I did get it.
Yeah, pretty funny. I don't even think we're cheating. Like, we're not supposed to make any suggestive things, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
I don't. It's just not.
Number 1 is Will Howard.
Okay.
I can buy that. I can buy that.
Fair. What's interesting to me is, man, we ought to do whole shows on the rest of college football and bore all our Alabama listeners with me talking about everybody else in college football. But this is fascinating to me. Can Ohio State win the national championship with Will Howard when Kansas State was like, we got Avery Johnson. Bye, Will. We're cool. We're cool with this Avery kid. And it's so weird.
It's almost like a dare.
Yeah,
it's like Ohio State, we dare you to win with this guy.
Well, Oklahoma did the same thing with Jackson Arnold and Dylan Gabriel. I mean, Dylan Gabriel might be a reason Oregon wins the national championship. Oklahoma was like, we're good with Jackson. Yeah. And Kansas State was – Will Howard did not leave Kansas State because they didn't have the NIL money. I mean, I don't know what stories that. He left Kansas State because Kansas State was perfectly fine with handing the keys to Avery Johnson. And just like Oklahoma was perfectly fine with, hey, let's get this Jackson Arnold era started. That doesn't mean that Dylan Gabriel's not good and that Will Howard's not good. I just think it's incredible that Will Howard may win a national championship at Ohio State, where the program he left is like, we're good. We don't need you, Will. We're fine.
I'll tell you what. Every time I see Kansas State play and Avery Johnson scores a touchdown, I'm going to tweet out, buckle up. You can bet on that.
That's Alabama fan. That is crazy that we have a player named Avery Johnson that's a significant football player. So, Will Howard's a good player. Hey, wouldn't it? You could also tell – I could also foresee Julian Sand becoming Ohio State's starting quarterback before the season's out. But that makes it sound like I think Will Howard stinks. I don't think that at all. I think Will Howard's good. And I think he's a better NFL prospect than he is a college quarterback. And if you're like, that doesn't make any sense to me, here's who I'm talking about. Will Levis, who wasn't a phenomenal college quarterback, in my opinion. He wasn't phenomenal. He's good, but he was a great NFL prospect, which is why starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. I see Will Howard similarly to how I saw Will Levis. He's a very good NFL prospect because he does NFL things when he plays.
We're going to go around the SEC with some news and notes around college football here in this third segment. I don't know why this isn't coming up. Is there nothing coming up?
I saw the locked on. I saw the locked on, and we're doing a commercial there. Now I've seen a bunch of them.
Okay, good. Okay, I didn't know what was happening.
That was all right. We're putting a commercial in this spot.
Tennessee lost one of their key secondary players
to a
season-long injury. Texas has lost C.J. Baxter.
That's a blow.
Phenomenal running back.
Dude's a dude. He's a dude now.
And
that's the first
Notre Dame. Yeah, he was a dude. And Notre Dame has also lost their starting left tackle so far to injuries in practice. So let me tell you,
they lost Joe Alt from last year.
Yeah,
and they lost Alt from last year, who was their left tackle a year ago. So they've lost the replacement for Alt. That's big. And that Notre Dame A&M game week 1 is so big because I think whoever wins Notre Dame versus A&M announces themselves as a contender. And whoever loses Notre Dame A&M is probably not a contender. That's how big to me I see that game, even though it's a playoff year where you can maybe get in with 2 losses. But I see the A&M Notre Dame game as the winner is a contender, the loser 8-4.
Well, Notre Dame, I mean, if Notre Dame goes 10-2, they'll get in. They probably shouldn't, but they probably will. But their schedule just isn't as tough as it normally is. And here's the thing.
Road game at A&M's tough. But
that's tough, but it's not a road game at Georgia or Bama.
No.
It's
they're
tough.
playing a lighter schedule than usual.
It's not unbeatable. I mean, A&M's middle of the pack in the SEC this year. Now, I mean, of course, we got to play the season out and all that, but I'm saying that Notre Dame. Here's the other thing, that Notre Dame can never get one of the first 4 seeds. They will always be seed 5 through 12. So
they signed up for
correct
never being a top 4 seed.
Correct. And so what that means is I think their margin for error is less. I mean,
I agree.
It used to be Notre Dame gets the benefit because of the gold helmets. I think now it's tougher. But another note, Khalid Lockett did commit to Texas today. He made it abundantly clear that's where he's going. He's 100% committed. Now, we've seen Antonio Coleman say he's 100%, 200%, 1,000% committed, and he's flip-flopped several times, and so have other kids. It could happen. But I think Alabama's pretty happy, it sounds like to me, with Latsier Brooks and with Caleb Cunningham.
If we've lost a commitment that we could potentially get back, it's Derek Smith. Now, am I predicting that? No. Am I saying, hey, BOL says no? I'm just telling you that based on what I know, based on my opinion, is if Alabama's lost a guy they might get back, it's Derek Smith. It's not Coleman. It's not Lockett. Lockett's going to go to Texas. And, hey, shout out to Keelan Russell, who gave Alabama a fighting chance there. And here's why that's valuable, Luke. If that happened 8 years ago, where Keelan Russell's like, hey, buddy, I'm going to Alabama. Come check this out because I'm going to go there, and we're buddies, and you might want to play here, and come check it out. And he comes and checks it out, and he goes, you know what? I like this. It's really cool. I'm glad you're happy here, but my dream is playing for my home state. I'm going to go to Texas. That would have been the end of it. That was 8 years ago. Now, in this age, now Khalid Lockett signs with Texas, and let's say something happens and he doesn't like it. But he's like, you know, when I went on that visit to Alabama, that was cool. I mean, coming in second now means something. 8 years ago, it meant nothing at all.
Right.
Now it means a lot. So you want to, fans out there that want to talk to these kids on Twitter, I implore you to keep that in mind. The recruitment of Khalid Lockett is probably over for 2025, but he might be in the portal in 26 or 27. And let's maintain a good relationship there, because that's a kid you may want down the road. I mean, crazy things happen, particularly as it relates to kids getting in the portal. So
we'll burn no bridges in recruiting anymore, unless you're just wanting to commit career suicide. So
that's exactly right.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. I want everybody to go check out Locked On College Football. I'm telling you, you'll love it. Your team every day, and they cover Bama a lot. Go check them out. And Jimmy, until next time, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.